The new guy.
The new guy's going to do the roll call.
Here we go, I guess, yeah. Commissioner Downs? Here. Commissioner Kerr?
Yes, here.
Commissioner Marks?
Here.
Commissioner Parsley? Here. Commissioner Grossman?
Here. All righty. Minutes of November 5th. In your packet. Any comments, corrections? Not. Somebody make a motion, please.
I move to approve the minutes.
Second.
Okay, all in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? None?
I'm going to abstain since I wasn't here.
All right, so one abstention. Announcements, staff, commission members. Let's start with, do we have a staff announcement?
I do. I have two announcements.
Announce away.
What's that?
For it.
So this Saturday's the first of 3 of our sandbag filling assistance days. It's Saturday, December 7th from 10 to 1. It's at the parking lot of the Ocean View Park. Sandbags are actually available anytime to any Albany resident. They just have to go down to the fire station, get the bags, and then go to the park and fill them on their own. This program is set up for those individuals that need assistance. Staff will be there with volunteers to fill the bags for them, load them in their cars for them. There's even hot cocoa and cookies. So if you're not doing anything, please come by. For those who can't make it to those assistance days, we have services available to them as well. They just contact neighborhood services, and then we'll send someone out to them to get them sandbags, which is very timely in light of all the rain that we're getting. So we're expecting a big turnout this Saturday. And then finally,
I'm sorry, Sid, could you repeat the time and place again?
sure, it's this Saturday, December 7th. From 10 a.m. to 1 p.m. at the parking lot in the Ocean View Park.
Okay.
The other 2 down the road, so it's once a month. The next one is, I don't have it in front of me, December 7th is the first one. The second one is January 11th, and the third one is February 1st. Not bad. And then the second announcement is the Alameda County District Attorney's Office is actually doing a presentation coming up at the Senior Center. And the presentation is for elder abuse prevention. They're going to be there along with the Seniors Healthcare Insurance Counseling and Advocacy Program, HICAP. Adult Protective Services, police representatives, and this outreach program, once again, will be at the Albany Senior Center on December the 12th from 1 p.m. until 3:30 p.m. Attendees will receive education about elder protection and gain awareness about the current crimes being perpetrated against elders. And this presentation is open and free to everyone. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Okay, commission, the announcements.
I guess I'll make one. So this is going to be my, due to some work issues, this is going to be my last meeting on the commission. My work commitments have just kind of elevated a little bit, and I'm unfortunately probably not going to be able to continue after January. So this will be my last meeting.
Sorry to see you go.
It's been fun.
Back sometime. Anyone else have anything? I'd like to mention, one of the good places to get information about what people are experiencing in town is Nextdoor. And there was an interesting conversation on Nextdoor a little while ago about streetlights. You may have noticed, it sort of dawned on me gradually that there's a lot less light, and the PG&E has apparently made some changes. I don't know if you guys know about this, but whatever the light source, they've reduced lighting. And so if you notice, it's quite dark in the evenings. And people are also not so much as they used to be in the practice of leaving their porch lights on. So from where I live, there are 2 lights on that street, and I can't see from one end of the street to the other. And I was thinking, while this is a potential problem for everybody, it's certainly a problem for elders in particular. It creates unsafety in a variety of ways. So I was going to mention that to, particularly to the aging group. But also it may be something we want to consider further because, as I say, I do think it creates some unsafety. And I think people are just beginning to notice. You walk out of your house and you think, gee, it seems sort of dark. And actually it is. So it's not your vision that's failing, it's the lights.
Can I ask a question? Okay, but it's not, doesn't the city control those lights? I mean, and the wattage that's in the bulbs that are in it, how strong they are?
Yeah, I really don't know who's in charge of that.
It would be a city thing, not a...
I don't know. Did you guys know?
I think some lights are controlled by the city, but other lights may be controlled by different entity who have, territory, land. So I don't know. I don't have the specifics.
Okay.
Well, I was just thinking we might want to add that to our recommendations
Okay.
in the aging group. Okay, anything else by way of announcements? If not, we don't have any presentations, do we, this evening? So, discussion.
Does the public have anything?
I'm sorry, yeah, I should have asked for public comment. No, okay. Possible action matters. 6.1, the rent review program. Our job is to review the 12-month report provided. This is the first report we've received on rent review.
Isn't it the second one?
I don't think so.
Yeah.
We may have had some numbers at some point.
Okay.
But
Okay.
You've received a report on a quarterly basis.
Yeah.
Quarterly, yeah.
So this is the 12-month.
Yeah.
The first 12-month report because the rent review program started in November of 2018.
Okay, so if you've had a chance to look at the report, does anyone have any questions or comments?
It's on the back, Judy?
Yeah, I just printed
It's on the back of something?
It's in the back.
No, we always
Oh,
Okay.
all right, thank you. Thank you so much.
Okay, any comments, thoughts, reactions to the report? I was curious about a couple of things, and I'm just going to put them out. You may not be able to answer them.
But did you want to say a few words? I think Sid wanted to say a few words about the report.
So what you have there is
Okay.
the status report from when the ordinance began, the program began in November 2018, up until November 2019. So as you can see, the engagements were really really prominent with, the landlords and tenants and others. It was a great opportunity for us to give the information on the program and get the dialogue going between tenants and landlords. We continue to get calls. We were getting calls, several calls a week, and a matter of fact, in the last 2 days, I've had several calls, both from landlords and tenants. So the outreach has worked, and we're engaging, once again, both landlords, tenants, and others. We have had a couple of mediations, and we have had one conciliation, and actually one is pending and in progress, and all have been resolved amicably at this point.
Help me understand that. Oh, I'm sorry. Were you going to go?
Oh, go ahead.
The difference between mediation and conciliation?
Excuse me. So the rent review process starts with an application, and then the conciliation is required. It doesn't have to be in person. It's done by our program administrator, Echo Fair Housing, and it involves the landlord and the tenant, and it doesn't have to be in person. If a resolution comes out of that conciliation, that's the end of it. If it's not resolved, then there's a mediation, which is mandatory face-to-face, once again, conducted by Echo Fair Housing. our program administrator, and a professional mediator, and it is a non-binding mediation. So once again, we get both parties together talking and coming up hopefully with the resolution. If a resolution is not reached, then the proposed rent increase goes in as proposed.
When you say engagement and you say 60 landlords and 60 tenants, what does that consist of? Is this just notification?
No, so the 60 landlords are either we had a telephone conversation or it was a face-to-face. Quite often, we have tenants, landlords show up here at City Hall where we meet face-to-face, and then the others are could be on the telephone or email as well.
And the engagement, the numbers for engagement here only includes the engagement done at the staff level at City Hall, right here by Sid. That does not include the potential phone calls that Echo Housing may have received, and it's not included in this report here. This is our report based on your engagement and then the numbers we've received from Echo Housing on conciliation and mediation.
So the numbers have ticked up quite a bit from where they were.
Yes.
I assume that the 60 contacts is not 60 different landlords. I mean, in other words, because landlords might own multiple units, you might have multiple counting of people who are contacting about the same landlord.
So yes, the tenants could be living in the same unit. Absolutely, that happens frequently.
But these are unduplicated numbers. Yeah.
The 60 are unduplicated.
60 different landlords in Albany.
Correct, unduplicated.
So those are landlords who have contacted Sid for questions. Yeah, and then tenants who have contacted Sid for questions.
And that's that whole year.
Sure.
That's a whole year.
And Sid, I'm curious about what information we have on the number of rental units in the city and what percentage 60 would be of the total number of rental units, and how we register that information, or do we even have that information?
So each landlord is required to register when they submit their business license into the rent review program. I don't have those numbers with me right now, but I could get those for you.
Ballpark?
Not really.
At one point, Judy, I saw a list of all the landlords. There was 900 names on it. 300 of them lived in Albany. Is that what you wanted to know? Or?
Well, I think that the number 60 is pretty meaningless unless we have an N. So I'm curious about how many total rental units there are in the city and whether or not we're actually feeling any impact of this program, or whether 60 is 60 a big or small number is my question.
Okay, so it would be helpful to know that.
Well, 51% of the population are renters, if that gives you anything. So that's about
So
9,000.
60 is a small number.
But it's better than 2.
It's way more than 2.
Okay, and when, I was curious here where it indicates in 2 instances, the notice was invalid. Don't people provide the notice that the city uses, or do they provide their own notice?
No, there is a notice that we provide to the landlords. It's accessible on the website, or, I could send, or we have landlords stop in for copies as well. Basically, they were given a rent increase without that notice of availability of rent review.
Oh, I see. So it wasn't that so much of the notice was invalid, there was no notice.
Correct.
Not
Yeah.
proper
Yeah.
notice.
Correct. And in those instances, we advise the tenant to contact Echo Housing, and then they make contact with the landlord, and they re-notice the rent increase along with that notice of availability to become compliant. And at that point, these 2 did not pursue a rent review application.
Yeah, okay. Yeah, it's a little, that's saying notice invalid is a little bit misleading, because that implies there was a notice, and apparently there wasn't, so, okay. What we see here is pretty bare boned. Is this as much information as can be given out? I imagine there are confidentiality issues.
We're planning to have the program administrator at co-housing come at the January meeting to present some information from the perspective of the administrator of the meeting, of the program. And then because we want to give you as much information as possible so that you can provide some recommendation to council on the program, because we will be going to council. Staff will be preparing a staff report to go to council on the first year of the program at first meeting in spring. So we want to give you as much information as possible so you can, your recommendation from the SCJC can be included as part of that staff report.
Do landlords have to renew their business license on a yearly basis, or how does that work?
Yes.
So
Yeah.
in renewing their license, they're notified that they have to comply with the rent review ordinance.
And that's how we can get the number of rental units also from in the city. By the number of business licenses, we can get that number.
Anything else on this? Anyone from the audience? Go ahead.
For those of you who don't know me, I'm Peter Campbell, and I'm a resident of Albany, and I'm a property owner, rental provider. I presume I am included in the others category, because I know I've contacted Sid a couple of times. One thing that's not on here that was of interest to me is how much this has cost so far during the first year. And I don't know if that information is available or will be available, but I think it's important to look at the actual cost of the program to date. And my second comment, or third, I guess, is a curiosity about the case number 190602, which was filed on October 1st, and nothing has apparently happened on it. And I thought there were time limits as to when things had to happen, so I didn't review the ordinance, but it seems like the time limit may have passed, and nothing has happened on that one, so I don't know what the status is. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Campbell. Can we ask that when we have that presentation in January, we also have numbers in terms of what's been?
Yeah, we're making notes of what to include in the January
what was that number,
presentation. Oh, the cost of the program.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, and yeah, what's been spent to date. And I don't, maybe you could inform Mr. Campbell about what the status is of that pending case.
Well, we'll provide you with, updated information in January. So I don't think we will get any information sooner than that.
Yeah.
And the reason it's pending, it's because also it is an October, it's an October case, so it has not finalized, and we haven't heard from ECHO.
Yeah. And do we know how long things can be pending? Is there a?
You said 60 days?
I believe it's 60 days. I don't have the information right here in front of me.
Right, so this one should be, it should happen very quickly. Yeah, okay. Well, we'll hear more about that in January. Okay, then we also have the report from Albany CARES. Did you want to say?
Yeah. So this Albany CARES report is a quarterly report, and it's for the July through September. Obviously, our numbers have increased significantly this quarter. And Anne-Marie and her volunteers, Anne-Marie's our program director for Albany CARES. She and her volunteers are doing a great job engaging their clients and helping them find appropriate resources and services. The next couple, demographics and services, the percentages really haven't changed much in terms of, my time's up. Really haven't changed much percentage-wise since the last report. And obviously, based on our increase in clients, we're thrilled with how the outreach efforts are going by both Anne-Marie and the volunteers. And I can answer any questions that you guys have.
Questions, anyone? Comments? Anything? Go ahead.
No, go ahead.
terms of the referrals, you list referrals to Berkeley Food and Housing and Mental Health. Presumably, you made other referrals.
Yes.
So could we, in the next report, see all the referrals?
Certainly.
Okay. And it's kind of interesting that the big bulge in client demographics between 62 and 79, I wonder to what extent that reflects the connection to the senior center and whether we're reaching.
Right. You know, we did note that, and the next report that Anne Marie's working on, the data she's getting, we're going to break it down even in more detail than that. I believe the numbers are going to be 62 to 70 and 71 to 79.
Yeah. Even
So
so,
we
I
can-
mean, I'm just concerned that that means that maybe people in the senior center are aware of this program, but maybe other people in the city are less aware.
If I may say it, it may also imply that seniors have a greater need of the program
May,
services.
yeah, it
But
may.
until we can break that out, we won't know.
Yeah. Yeah, so I
question will be, where did the referral come from?
yes.
Did you come to us because you were at the senior center and you heard about
Mhm.
us? Or did you hear about us from another
Yeah.
place?
And I don't have any objection to people coming because they heard about it at the senior center. I'm just concerned that other people are not hearing.
Understood.
Yeah.
There is that.
If you look, it says how client found out about Albany CARES. 20 of them came from the senior center. And the biggest bulk, it looks like, is unknown. We don't know how they found out. So I think, obviously, Albany CARES being directly next to the senior center might have something to do with the seniors being the ones mostly utilizing it. But I mean, the Albany staff has directed 10 people. Friends have. So I think that it shows that the outreach is working. Could it be more? Sure, but I think the word is getting out there. It's a new program, and from what it looks like, one of the biggest issues that they're dealing with is financial and housing. So I think, those are the two things that probably seniors are going to be most concerned with, and that and home care. So that's probably driving those demographics for those issues. But I think it shows that there's certainly a need, and it's growing.
Yeah. When will Anne Marie be here next?
I think probably in February.
February. I'm speculating here. I'd like to know more clearly what it is about housing, because there are 15 people who are indicated as homeless, but there are 40 people who are having problems with housing. So it would be helpful to know what kinds of problems people are having. Is the housing unstable, or what's going on?
Anecdotally, as a volunteer at the CARE program, I can add that a number of seniors who've come in are concerned about housing transitions as they age. And it's not that they're necessarily at risk for housing, but they're trying to navigate the challenges of aging in place.
Yeah. So that's helpful. And I think, the more we can get in terms of the housing group, the more we can get specifics about what it is that's an issue with housing, the more effective we can be. So thank you for that. Anything else? Anyone?
Could I just have a quick question?
Yes.
Did the HEAP funds go to Berkeley Food and Housing? Is that who is administering those funds?
Yes, that's correct.
Okay. Okay, thank you.
Well, the city's administering the funds, but BFHP is using the funds to house people who are homeless. So,
When you say the city, so the city controls that pot of money?
yes, Yes.
And then you give it
And as
to-
part of the contract with BFHP, we've, based on council's direction, we've established a contract with BFHP for how the HEAP money should be spent. Yeah.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, any other comments? Mr. Campbell? No? Might as well call you Mr. Campbell instead of audience. 6.3, Albany Project Hope. The quarterly report was not in the packet.
This is aging in place. You probably have a different.
I'm up to 6.3, which is Albany Project Hope.
No, this is a revised agenda.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
All right, maybe I'm looking at the wrong agenda. Oh, okay. Well, I've got everybody's agenda now, so, all right.
It's not that one.
I see. All right, then. Aging in Place Subcommittee, would you like to make a report, please?
Well, I will be continuing on this project. I contacted actually the County of Alameda today to set up a meeting with them. They did an aging study and program for the whole county in 2016-17. So I've looked at it online. I can't figure out how Albany interacts with what they're doing. It looks like all this administrative stuff that doesn't really help seniors on the ground. But maybe, hopefully, if I meet, I'm trying to meet with someone from the county to make sure then what the county's doing and we're not duplicating it or whatever. So we met with Robin at the senior center, and it's a great place, fantastic place. So that's a good thing.
The county's website, which is strangely referred to as like AAA, is how they refer to it, is a little challenging to navigate somewhat, and a lot of statistical data. But what I noticed about it was that a lot of it is basically outreach phone numbers for public partners and private nonprofit partners. Very different from the City of Berkeley's website, which is fairly comprehensive with regards to their aging in place. My concern, and I'll be honest, that Margie's done 99.9% of the work with this, and and I expressed this to her, is kind of what direction is this going, and what is the ultimate outcome? As you see, we're just kind of collecting data here, data there, with no real direction on what the council really wants with regards to aging in place, whether it's to become a part of the WHO AARP model of aging in place or age-friendly cities, or if they're looking for something else. And I think that in the future might be helpful to kind of glean off of council is what exactly they're looking for with this. If it's just a collection of data, or if we're looking more towards actually providing service, whether that be, it could be something as very simple as like kind of almost what the county is doing with regards to outreach, something that along the lines of Albany CARES, but with regards to aging in place. Or if they want to do something much more comprehensive, which Margie has touched on before, which would activate joining AARP or the World Health Organization, a review, which could get pricey. And then both the county and Berkeley and Fremont, which are the two major, or the three major cities and organizations in the Bay Area that are doing this now, have their own dedicated aging services. So, yeah, like a department. And I don't think that's a road that we're going to be going down. So that's my concerns with how this goes in the future.
My sense is that the council is asking us to give them direction as to what, what should be done, whether it's something major or whether it's something minor. So I'm hoping that, I can't refer to you as a subcommittee, I guess you're a sub-person now.
She's a full person.
She's a full person. That's not right, so we'll have to think of a different name. At any rate, I'm hoping we can get a report at some point that can go to council with specific recommendations, whether we join something or not, or whether there may be some concrete steps that can be taken, for example, about the street lighting and things of that nature. But sometime.
I'm working on a draft, and by the next meeting, you'll have a list of suggestions.
Excellent.
Another thing that I want to look at is partnering with the city of Berkeley. I mean, they have this great aging in place, like 50-page plan, over 3 years, and it's great. So there's a few food programs at the senior center that we partner with Berkeley. So those are just small things, but that's something I want to explore, that maybe we could do more if we partner with them for some of these items, not everything, but where we can, I would like to try to do it.
Yeah. Okay, well, we'll wait on you for that.
That's the food program at the senior center. I was actually a little shocked when we had that conversation that so many meals. I would have thought it was the Meals on Wheels program that was actually, but it's actually the dinners that are being served at the senior center that seem to be drawing the most attention, and that Robin had said it's kind of cyclical. It goes but it's very clearly been an uptake on the dinners served at the senior center that are clearly of most need right now.
Are those dinners supposedly directed at people who have a lack of food, or is it really meant to be for everyone?
No, well, it's for seniors.
But
and it's a certain amount of calories that is in, it's healthy, fresh food. I volunteer once a week to serve the dinners. So, they get like brown rice and a turkey stew and a vegetable, and then maybe a piece of fruit for dessert, and milk, coffee and tea. But I've seen it increase in the last month or so. It seems like there's more people that are coming.
Is that a problem?
No, as long as they know and sign up, because the food is brought in hot. There's all these rules about keeping the food a certain temperature and all. I mean, the people in the kitchen know what they're doing, thank goodness. But the food is brought in hot, and they order it every day. So if people don't sign up, they might order 25 and then 30 people show up. We do have some frozen Meals on Wheels, and we'll heat those up for people that come too late to get the regular dinner that we're serving at the senior center, because we really, these people are hungry, and we really want to try to feed them.
Are they? One of the things, I was on the board of Berkeley Food and Housing Project, and they have a food, a lunch, a hot lunch that they make available for people. One of the things that got to be a problem at one point is that more and more people were having that lunch sort of as a matter of convenience, and it became a question of, are the people who really need it getting it, or is it being filled up with people who could buy their own lunch? And I don't know if there's any thought whether that's an issue.
It's not an issue. It's not. People pay, they're supposed to pay from $1 to $4 if they can afford it. There's scholarships for people that, can't afford to any of the program for whatever they want to do at the senior center, a class, a meal, or a trip. So people pay for, most of them pay $4, I understand, but many of them, I don't think so, but I have no idea.
So the dinner program is both for people in need and a social component as well.
Yeah.
People who are out on their own.
Right.
The cost of the meal is a donation if you're 60 or over. So most of the clients do don't make that $4 donation. If there's someone who can't pay that's over 60, they're not asked to pay.
Yeah. But we're not in a position where people might be denied food, well, other people who could afford.
Definitely not. Everybody that comes to the door, even if they don't have enough, they'll make it work and they will accommodate everyone.
That's good to hear.
My comments on this topic are maybe a little more 50,000-foot thoughts. The senior center does a phenomenal job, and they do a good job feeding people. They do a good job providing social support. There is more work that could be done, but the question that I think is incumbent on us as a commission in making recommendations to the council is not about what the senior center can or does do, but what we as a community are doing for seniors and elders in our community. The best we do right now as a community as we write seniors out of parcel taxes. We're not providing any direct, other than the senior center, any direct programs or services that are targeted for seniors the same way we're targeting our youth. And I think that I would like to see us take that on. I would like to see that be part of our agenda of inclusivity and diversity. I think, the demographics shift, and it's nothing to be afraid of, as Margie and I learned at a conference we went to this past month. But it's not a senior tsunami, it's just the changing demographics, and we just need to wrap our heads around how do we look at the fact that we're going to have fewer kids in school, that we're going to have elders in our community. And it's not just the senior center, it's all of us. So I'd like to see us to step beyond the way we've served this population previously and think a little more broadly about what we can do as a community.
Actually, on that note, that was one of the things that I think that we had kind of looked at was the senior center and senior services right now are under the umbrella of recreational services, and there may come a time when that's going to need to be separated to go under. Whether that be neighborhood services, community development, something like that. Right, and I think as we go down that road, that's eventually where we're going to need to lead to.
If we're talking about priorities and concerns, I guess the thing that I'm concerned about is not so much services as the ability of the community to become senior-friendly, by which I mean things that people don't consider, for example, in planning. For example, I see plans developed for streets where you've got pedestrians and bicycles, going in the same direction. That's very dangerous for seniors. I see us talking a lot about getting rid of cars, but cars are the main way that seniors get around. Many seniors are not able to ride bicycles at this point. So I think, in planning for the community, that we need to give more thought to what are the limitations that seniors face and what are the needs that they have. So that, a simple example that's been I've heard discussed is lighting the street lights so that you can actually read them in the dark. Many seniors, have limitations in terms of their vision. So those are the kinds of things that I would like to see us pay more attention to, so that that becomes automatic when we develop a plan that we're considering, what are the implications of this? Is this going to work for seniors? Buses, things of that sort, is it possible for people to get to bus stops? There's a whole issue now of the barred parking lot. What would be the consequences if that goes? So that's really what concerns me.
Isabel, is Complete Streets finished, or is the council still?
No, I think it was approved.
It was approved.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Because I know the I believe it's AARP, we'll have a consultant or have somebody come out and review the Complete Streets program to see if it's senior friendly. So I don't know if that's something we looked at.
Oh, I don't know, but what I'm thinking as you're talking is perhaps the subcommittee, or we can help also, is try to find an expert on aging in place to come and speak to the commission, and so that the commission can start thinking about the different aspects of aging in place and maybe pick one of these aspects and move forward with it. Or, but maybe it may be helpful to have somebody speak on the topic, an expert.
And I'd like to underscore what I tried to say earlier, which is it's not just a question of aging in place, it's a question of changing demographics within our community. And it's a question of who is in our community. And as people are aging, and there's a larger percentage of people who are older, we need to shift our focus to that group of people. It's not a scary thing, it's just the reality of how we need to look. And it can't just fall on the senior center, it can't just fall on the Recreation Human Services Department, it needs to be the entire community that's looking at that. So I think your idea is a great one, and I really would support it, and getting some experts in to help look at that.
Certainly Ashby Village would be a resource, and Professor Charlack at the School of Social Welfare has been one of the global leaders on this whole issue of senior-friendly communities.
Sorry, what is her name?
Charlack, Andrew Charlack, S-C-H-R, C-H-L-A-R-C.
Wait,
Yeah,
S-C-H-L.
A-R-C-H.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, anything more on aging in place? If not, housing.
Could I just say one thing about Ashby Village? The council the commission was probably 2 years ago, or before all of you started. Maybe you were here, Greg. We had a presentation from Ashby Village.
Yes.
And basically they're trying to sell their program. They also go to the senior center. The problem with their program is it costs $750 a year,
Right.
and most of our seniors, or the ones that have been in, earshot or whatever, that's really prohibitive for them to pay that.
Yeah, I was thinking of them as a source of expertise. They do actually extend services into Albany,
Yes.
but their services are not something the community subscribes to. It's individual by individual.
Yes.
So.
That's correct.
$750 per year per citizen is not a huge expense. It's not a lot of money. It's just not.
Yeah.
It would be a small parcel tax.
Well, it wouldn't be the community that pays, it's individuals, each household.
I understand how Ashby Village works. I'm suggesting there may be other ways to approach the
I
problem.
see. Perhaps a subsidy or something, yeah. Okay, moving on, Housing Forum. Judy, why don't you make the presentation? You're about to abandon me.
So my leading comment is that I sincerely hope that the targeted date of May of 2020 for a housing forum is able to be met. As you are all aware, I will be taking a brief hiatus, and I didn't realize that Commissioner Parsley would also be taking a longer hiatus. But I'm hopeful that our housing policy, which actually is consistent and meets the needs of the affordable housing public information campaign, which is part of the housing element. So I'm hopeful that the Planning Commission will step up with a little bit of energy and insight into this to help Bart out. The plan that we are currently proposing is a plan to review the housing-related statewide legislative changes and housing-related regional planning efforts, explore different voices and values and how Albany residents can best be positioned to understand our role in the implementation of statewide changes in regional housing policy. So last year, or this year actually, 2019, there were a whole bunch of bills that passed. Some of them were supported locally and some of them were not. Nancy Skinner, our state legislator, was very involved in in getting a lot of housing bills passed. And what we want to do in May is we want to present to the community what those bills are, what they mean to us, and what we need to do to position ourselves to move forward and to be responsive to the changes in our very significant housing shortage in the Bay Area. So the goals are outlined on the planning notes that you have in front of you, and we have made quite a bit of progress in terms of talking to folks who could be potential speakers. We have confirmation from several people. We are partnering, Bart, help me out here, we're partnering with
EBHO?
EBHO, yes, all these acronyms, EBHO, EBHO. And we're partnering with them, and we are awaiting dates from them to confirm the final date for this event. We anticipate that the event will be a midweek event in May, and that we will have some sort of fair where there will be presenters and people with general information about housing, rental, all sorts of information that people can glean. And then we will sit down as a group and have a sort of a 2-hour discussion of legal changes and strategies and where we are in Albany in terms of housing. So the goal is education. The target is to look at what's changing and prepare ourselves to go forward in this endeavor. We have a projected date and agenda sometime midweek in May, second or third week, and then the time for the event is 4:30 to 9:30. Actually, we would need the facility. So I guess at this point we are not asking. Are we asking for anything? We're just announcing. We will, however, be asking for approval for a budget that'll allow us to use the facilities. Because there is a cost associated with that, and we recognize that. We believe it's consistent with the goals of housing element, and we would like to incorporate the plan in that. So we anticipate that would happen without too much further discussion. And we will also probably request a budget for speaker honorariums, food for the event, and parking tickets, who knows, whatever. That would probably be it, just a few speaker honorariums and food for the event. We expect that we could probably pull in, make up a number, 100 people? Sound good?
I think it's possible.
100 people on a midweek night in May, when the days are long and the light is good. And we hope to have it be successful. So that's our plan. And that's our update.
I just would add that we do have a tentative commitment for a speaker from Nancy Skinner's office.
Correct.
And also from EBHO.
Correct.
And those would be people who could sort of give us an overview of what the legislation is and what it means. We will also, we have more planning to do in terms of thinking about what other voices we would want to have represented in terms of presentations. And we also are thinking that part of the time we might do kind of a visioning exercise so that the city would receive as a result of this some sense of how people feel about what the future is for Albany and what they would like the future to look like in terms of housing. So that's the story, and we will continue to work. Sid and I will keep the fires burning and wait for your return.
That's great. Can we,
Yes.
so this sounds great. I'm excited about it. So it has to be approved by planning and zoning, or it's a?
No, we're going to meet with planning and zoning, and I have to talk with Isabel. She's been doing seeing when we could, but one of the council was interested, and when we presented this, we also presented interest in the other commissions that have a role that's related to housing, so that they would have the possibility to participate in the planning and maybe play some role in the event.
And then the budget request goes to council, I
Yes.
assume. Right, That's great. And have you all gotten good feedback on how to publicize?
Well, one of the things we would do is apply to become a sponsored event within EPO in that week, so that they will be distributing notifications about all the events, and that would be one thing we would do. We'll do other things as well, but that'll give us a lot of visibility.
That's great.
Anything else? Mr. Campbell? No? Okay. And finally, the Inclusivity Subcommittee.
So Judy and I think Sid was kind enough to put one on your, in front of each of you. Judy and I came up with a resolution draft. We're not asking the commission to vote on it, but to take it under discernment and to, propose their suggestions that we can incorporate, and then, see if we'd be ready to vote at a upcoming meeting. And it builds upon what we talked about 2 meetings ago about the idea of a diversity report, and also about including the kind of justifications, the connection to other institutions that do similar reports, which is the first whereas. The second of what it, what our hope it will do is to empower people to see for themselves, both in order to isolate areas that they, that community members might decide need improvement, but also to serve as encouragement in areas where community members might be, pleasantly surprised, by the data. So to sort of be able to utilize that data to inform them. And the third whereas, noting as we talked about, that the city does possess and collect this information for workers for the EEO, but that it's relatively difficult for people to access. And so that we'd be looking for a way of taking this information that the city has and the taxpayers pay for, and looking to find a simple, clean way for it to be easily accessible. So our recommendations are to ask staff to prepare this report based on the data, and then to update it. And then the second is to ask City Council to ask staff to add questions about similar demographic categories or others, if that's what we suggest, for applications for boards and commissions, so that as a next step we could incorporate that information. And our hope is then this would sort of establish a framework that functions relatively smoothly, and that we could imagine all kinds of ways to build upon it in the future. So we don't see this as an exclusive list of the things that we would want to know, but a way of sort of meeting achievable goals and hopefully building a foundation that we could use to expand if it works.
So are you proposing that we vote on this evening?
That was not originally our intention. We're certainly glad to, after last time we knew that people wanted to see it in more detail. And we're glad to, incorporate changes so it was not.
I think the issue may have been that it simply wasn't agendized as an action item. So we're not really proposing to step outside of the posted agenda. However, I think it is important to recognize that it is part of our work plan.
Yeah.
It is. Inclusivity and diversity, absolutely.
Inclusivity's on our agenda, so it.
And it is on the agenda, however.
It is on the agenda as a possible action item.
Yes.
So we could take an action this evening. That's why I was raising that question. There's really no reason why we can't vote on this if it's ready to go, unless people have.
I think it looks fine. I think the reality is when it gets to council, they're going to wordsmith it anyway.
Sure.
So I think it looks fine, and let the council do what they do in wordsmithing it to make it to their liking. But I think you've kind of hit upon everything, and at the end of the day, it is really about transparency, and if the city shouldn't have an issue with transparency, and especially if these are things that are taxpayer funded, so I don't think there's an issue, and I don't have it's on as a possible action item, so I don't have a problem with voting on it.
I'm certainly not going to stand in the way of a vote if it's I didn't want to be pressing forward or running into agenda problems, so.
Do I have a motion to support the
I move
proposed
to,
resolution?
I move to, in favor, that we vote in favor of the proposed resolution.
Okay. Do I have a second?
I'll second.
Okay. Any discussion?
I would just make it a little bit more detailed. What do you want to do with the resolution?
Oh, to forward it to the city council?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes. Okay, so can you add that, please, Scribe? Thank you.
That goes without saying, but maybe needs to be said.
And,
We want the motion to be complete.
Yes.
and I think it's important, as we forward it to council, that we recognize that they have done a great deal of work already with regard to diversity and inclusivity, that we are not by any means suggesting that work has not been done. We are simply suggesting that there is a way to continue the preliminary work that they have started.
Yeah, and if you want to write an introductory paragraph to the resolution, you can definitely do so, and you can either send the resolution yourself with the introductory paragraph through the city website and send it directly to council, or we're happy also to send it if you send it to us. But I think an introductory paragraph would probably
Good
be
idea.
also a good idea.
Okay.
And my preference would be to have it go through staff, because then there'll be a staff report, and it's I think it needs.
No, there's no staff report, because this is just done via email at this point, because you're not going to a council meeting, right? Are you suggesting
Well,
that you want to present this to a council meeting?
Presumably, they're going to act on it in a meeting, otherwise what's going to happen with it?
Well, right now, what you're proposing is that it be sent to council via email, and then it all depends on whether or not a council member decides that they, that you may get response. I'm not sure what you're trying to.
We're asking the council to do certain things. This is a recommendation to the council.
Right, so that recommendation will go to council via email. They'll each review it individually, right? Because they can't address this outside of a
they'll
meeting.
agendize it.
And then at some point, it may be agendized, yes.
Well, I'm not sure I understand, because in the past, when we've recommended things, they've gone through you to be on the agenda.
Exactly.
And so why would this be different?
Well, it just depends on whether or not the council, the mayor, the city manager, it just depends on the timeline of when this can be put on a council agenda.
Yeah, but
you do have things that you have forwarded to council that did not go to a public meeting. They've just decided not to pick that up, right? So
Yeah,
it does happen. So I'm just saying at this point, I cannot guarantee that there will be a meeting on this, but there probably will, but I can't give you a timeline. At this point, we're just talking about how to forward that recommendation to council, which is via email to the individual members.
That's interesting, because when a commission recommends an action to council.
But it's a recommendation.
Yes, it's always
Yeah.
a recommendation. Commissions don't take action, they make recommendations. In my past experience, that generally has then been put on an agenda for the council.
Yeah, and I'm not saying it won't be. I'm just saying that this is the process. I just wanted to be clear about the initial process at this point, is that it's going to council via email with an introductory paragraph from the subcommittee to explain where the recommendation is coming from. Probably a link to the work plan would be useful, so to remind the council why you're sending this to them. And then at some point it will get picked up and put on the agenda of the council, but I cannot tell you when that's going to happen.
I understand that. Is that the way everything gets handled now? If another commission makes a recommendation on something on its work plan, does it go to council individually? Yeah. Okay.
This is my understanding about how it works, and I could be totally wrong, which I'm many times, is that this type of thing would go to the council, and then it needs at least one council member to say, put it on the agenda. So if you get one council member to say, put it on the agenda, it will go on the agenda. So people, like, send emails to your council members to tell them that it's coming and to act on it. Just FYI.
Yeah, but it is a commission vote. It's not just a random.
So we have a,
I understand, but I understand that's how it works, so.
And the agenda is set by the mayor and the city manager, so.
Okay, we still haven't taken a vote.
so we have a motion and a second, but I'd like to amend the motion to include the introductory paragraph, which Greg and I will write, I guess.
Who made the motion?
I made the
I think
motion
Margie.
second.
Yeah, is
Yes,
that
it's a
acceptable?
friendly amendment.
Yes.
We
Okay.
accept it.
Okay.
Yes.
Okay.
Well,
Okay.
Okay, so any other comments before we take a vote? Okay, I think that we should have a roll call on this.
Okay, Commissioner Downs,
Yes.
Commissioner Kerr,
Yes.
Commissioner Marks,
Yes.
Commissioner Parsley,
Yes.
Chairman Grossman.
Yes. Very good. Anything else?
And so just to make sure I understand, Judy and I will agree on an introductory paragraph, and then at that point, when we are both in agreement, we'll send it directly to staff?
Yeah.
Okay.
We are free to move about the introductory paragraph.
Laura.
Okay. Thank you all.
Okay, that's it then. We're up to future agenda items. Our next meeting is January 7th. I assume we'll have further reports from each of the subcommittees. We will also have elections for officers of the commission at that point. I don't have to be chair anymore. And anything else that anyone would like to see on the January 7th agenda? Anything on a back burner that you would like to move?
I think it probably would be appropriate to continue to provide an update on the Housing Forum monthly.
Yes, of
or,
course, we'll do that, yeah. Yeah. Okay, if anything else occurs to you, get in touch with Sid. And I guess we're done for tonight.
All right.
Thank you.
Party's over.
If you keep being so efficient, Bart, we're going to vote you in whether you want it or not, right? Yeah, that's right.
Have great holidays, everybody.
Thank you.